CEO at the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault. It has been a hot minute since our last TAASA Talks update. So thank you for joining us. The Texas 87th legislative session has ended. It ended May 31st, not without a lot of drama-filled goodness, I guess we would call that, that happened. But the good news is that our stuff is totally fine, and we'll get into that. But it was not your ordinary session for a variety of reasons, including, but not limited to COVID, right? So in our last TAASA Talks, we kind of revealed that our bills and our budget increase was on the right path. We were very careful. We're always very careful in how we said that, because for those of you who are familiar with the process know that until the bill is out of both chambers and on its way to the governor's office and everything in between, they can be killed either procedurally or intentionally, or sometimes intentionally procedurally can get killed. So it's never completely safe, right? So that last week was a test of faith. That last week of May, faith for me, endurance and patience. And I say that, and I was watching online. Like Kristen and Catherine were at the Capitol, up close and personal, pivoting left and right, I'm sure. So it really was. So like in my household, when folks are yelling at the screen, it's usually because there's a bad call by a referee, or there's a fumble or something like that, or they're celebrating because somebody made a touchdown. So that was happening. They were screaming at the screen, but it was me as I was watching our bills, like, oh my God, there's Nelson. Oh my God, she did this. It's just funny. So I say that the Texas Ledge is indeed a spectator sport. I don't care what nobody says. That's what I believe. But in the end, our remaining bills, they made it through. But it was not over. It's never over until the governor signs them, right? So there was a lot of good bills that made it like that far, and they didn't get signed. And so that's just painstakingly stressful. So I know Kristen and Catherine were, I'm always like, oh, can we do that? And they were like, no, they're not signed yet. Okay. So, last, we are here to give you our final TAASA Talks, the 87th update. We're very excited. It's kind of sad, but it's also exciting. So I'll start with the budget. So it's official. The SAPCS, y'all know what that is. That's, we're about to, those awards are going to come out in probably in August. There was a $4.7 million increase. We are so proud of that increase. What we did is we went in with the message that we heard from you all loud and clear, which is wait list. There is a wait list for counseling. The Texas Ledge agreed that no survivor of sexual assault should have to wait to get counseling and to get assistance. So we're very excited that that increase is there so that you all can put that money to good use, get the counseling wait list down. And we're excited to work with you on that. So implementation of that, we'll have more information at our next TAASA Talks. I know I said it was the final one, but the next one's going to be at the TAASA conference, where we're not talking updates. We're talking more implementation and give some behind the scenes kind of stuff that happened during the Capitol. So we're very excited about that. We're also excited about the rider language kind of clarity, that all that does is detail the method of finance, right, for the funding sources. I know that sounds like, what is that? For those of you that aren't like a nerd like me when it comes to that, but it just really made it clear on what's happening with the money, where it goes and where it's coming from. And so it's just clarity. So we're very excited. That, to me, that's equally as important as the increase of $4.7 million for counseling. So with that being said, I'd like to pass it over to Kristen and Catherine, and excited to hear what they have to say about our updates.
Thanks, Rose. So we're really thrilled to share that 5 of TAASA's priorities made it out of the legislature and were signed by the governor this session. And that's just a huge victory, and it's a huge testament to the work that y'all did and the need that still remains for sexual assault survivors when it comes to state level policy. So I'm going to talk about a couple of them, and then I'll hand it over to Catherine. The first one that made it out was our sexual assault privilege law. And so what that does is it elevates the level of confidentiality that's required when a survivor visits a rape crisis center, and brings it into line with what exists for those domestic violence victims when they visit. So now we'll have a more equitable level of privacy and confidentiality for survivors when they get services from y'all. Secondly, we are proud to share that our sexual assault response team bill made it across the finish line as well. And that was just a massive effort from around the state. Again, it was championed by Senator Nelson, and we're really grateful to her leadership for ensuring that made it through and seeing this need for minimum standards for communities to have a plan in place when a survivor makes an outcry. And we're expecting to be able to provide a lot of support and technical assistance to communities as they begin considering how they're going to implement this law. And we'll share more about materials, training, TA as we develop them this summer. Catherine, do you want to talk about some other ones?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Kristen. So a couple more. We brought the charge for sexual assault in police custody in line with other relationships or situations in which consent cannot exist. So that's really exciting. And then we're very proud of the fact that our trauma-informed investigations bill, championed by Representative Howard and Senator Zaffirini, made it onto the governor's desk and was signed. This bill does three things to make reporting to law enforcement a lot more trauma-informed, in that it strikes law enforcement's ability to polygraph or decline an exam, but it also allows for a rape crisis center advocate to be in the room during a law enforcement interview, which I know is something that y'all have really wanted for a really long time. So we're really excited that it got across the finish line. And much like what Kristen just said about technical assistance around the SART legislation, we are preparing documents and MOU templates and that kind of level of support so that when this goes into effect on September 1, y'all are really ready to meet the need in the community as best you can. We're very excited about that. And then the last two that we want to mention are the expanded healthcare, the recodification of sexual assault forensic programs in the community, like Eloise House here in Austin or Courtney Safe Place. Those kinds of centers do 25% of exams across the state. They're national best practice, and we were able to codify them in state law in a way that better supports them. So it's enormously exciting. That's in line with the governor's task force recommendations, which I will get to in 1 second. But I wanted to also mention that a TAASA priority of the 86th session, which was a protective order cleanup bill, was our only bill that didn't get across the finish line in 2019. And it made it across the finish line this year. So we have 5 out of 6 of our 87th priorities, and then like one bonus one from the 86th session, which is just like enormously exciting for all of us. And then the Sexual Assault Survivors Task Force out of the governor's office created a really long list of recommendations in the fall, some of which were statutory, some of which were like administrative. And in that package of recommendations, there were 11 legislative recommendations, and we are thrilled to announce that all 11 of those made it across the finish line in one shape or another. At like truly the 11th hour, like last day of session, like fingers crossed, like Rose said, like
before the walkout.
Yes, just like so dramatic, so last minute. And a huge credit goes to Representative Nayabe and Senator Paxton for getting those through. So we're enormously excited to be working with the task force on implementing all of those pieces of legislation. But I think, you know, as we talk through this incredible budget increase and passing all of this legislative material, like the credit really goes to y'all who have been like unbelievably responsive. Anytime you've gotten like an, excuse me, I have terrible allergies today, like a truly panicked email from one of us on this team, you've been so quick to respond and so quick to call your lawmakers and really make our message really heard in a time in which it's really difficult to do that. So we really appreciate it. Do y'all have anything to add to that?
unless Kristen has anything to add, I just wanted to say that yes, thank you all so much. What we learned this year, we did things a little differently this legislative session. We had a successful one last year too, y'all. Absolutely, got a lot of good things passed. Catch another TAASA Talks we talk about on YouTube. But this legislative session, we approached it differently. We approached it from a team approach, right? It's not just one person; it was a team approach. But there's leads. The leads who made decisions on the fly, who pivoted, are Kristen and Catherine. And so I just wanted to congratulate them again on our first session together. It was an impactful session for many reasons, but first and foremost because you all did the work. You all actually were just brilliant in your approach. So thank you all. I think we need to really give credit where credit is due, and that is to these two brilliant women who pulled it across. I feel like on their back. I could just picture them crawling with this on their back to the finish line to the governor's office. So yeah, they did that, and it was really great. And as they mentioned, you all helped them by calling and getting and providing information and education to the lawmakers. Really, a little bit of education goes a long way when it comes to these things. And in the end, I'm very also proud not only of their work and how they handled this and how they led this effort, but everything was tethered and grounded by what was needed in the field. Like we had a process, the policy team had a process of gathering that information, turning that into a bill. And now here we are, they're signed and they were going to be law. Huge deal. Thank you all, Kristen and Catherine. And thank you all in the field for hanging with us, for listening to our little TAASA Talks. Again, we wanted to provide education, and thank you for the work that you do for the survivors and also calling when we needed you. Thank you so much. So we hope to see you at the TAASA conference. We're going to do our last, there it is. We're going to do our last little TAASA Talks there. We're going to talk a little about insight and implementation and how another set of the rolling of the sleeves work begins with implementation. And we are absolutely ready for that. Any other last words?
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, y'all.
All right, y'all have a good one. We'll see y'all soon.